So I want to talk about something that's been getting a lot of attention. I've seen a lot of people online talking about it, and it's been a hot topic about eBay and the buying and selling industry for as long as I can remember. I've been doing eBay for a long time. I've been at it for 18 years. So many things have changed, and I feel like this topic needs to be addressed. I just want to kind of give my take on it because I know a lot of people have different opinions. Zero feedback buyers. People talking about how, oh, well, this buy, if I get a buyer that has zero feedback, I cancel their order, I block them, they're not going to pay, they're not going to follow through, they're going to be more headache than it's worth, and I just don't want to deal with it. I want you to think about this for a second. If you were that buyer that has been searching high and low for an item, you got super excited because you finally found an eBay store that had what you were looking for. Let's say it's this pair of shoes you've been looking for forever that you had when you were a kid, and then you finally find them. Let's say that rare video game, and you're an avid video game collector. You really don't deal with eBay a whole lot. You go on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, some other platforms, or maybe just shop locally. But a friend of yours said, hey, I go on eBay. That's where I order cool stuff. I have these sellers that I go to and they consistently have good items. Hey, check this seller out. And so this other person who just signed up for eBay because their friend told them to, goes on eBay, goes to your store that someone else recommended, finds that game that they've been looking for forever, places the order, and then they have a terrible experience because that seller is automatically judging them, cancels the order, blocks them. They're like, hey, what happened? I don't know. I paid for it, and all of a sudden I get some nasty message saying I'm having zero feedback, so it's getting canceled. Next thing I know, I just got an email from eBay saying my order's been canceled and I can't find the store anymore. Don't be that seller, guys. I want to say this from personal experience. First of all, we all have to start somewhere. You have to crawl before you can walk. We all had to start somewhere as a buyer. We all had to start somewhere as a seller. eBay pushes traffic your way because you're a great seller. You're upholding the community standards. That's part of it. When we agree to be sellers on eBay's platform, we agree to assume that risk. Someone is going to potentially cancel a transaction, try to get a refund when they haven't received the item, try and get a refund after they've received it. They don't want to send it back, so they ask for a partial refund. This is the way I look at it. Everybody has to start somewhere. You had to start somewhere as a buyer. We also had to start somewhere as a seller and gain people's trust, and we do that through good customer service, following policy. If you're going to be a successful business owner, you can't show prejudice when it comes to dealing with customers. Chain retail stores deal with it all the time. It's a cost of doing business, an expense that we have to write off. There is going to be shrinkage, there's loss of material, there may be issues in cases where we have to accept an item and issue a refund even though we know it's buyer's remorse, or we know that something that was not on our side that we had zero control over, but yet we still have to cater to the customer, take measures to make sure that we minimize those losses as much as possible. You are wanting to prevent or minimize returns. Take good pictures, disclose any imperfections or faults with your item. Make sure that you are writing a really good description that's detailed and really thorough. If there are any problems with the item, imperfections, anything that potentially might cause an issue with the buyer, and make sure that you're being very clear and detailed on what it is that you're selling. Use the right keywords in your title. If you're doing all the right things to make sure that you're not going to have any problems, your percentage of transactions where people are returning items is going to be very small, very minimal. I see a lot of cynical, a lot of jaded sellers that say, oh, well, I'm not going to deal with them, with these low feedback buyers, because usually they're scammers or they're ignorant. They're not going to know the correct procedures, policies. They're just going to cancel and say that they bought something by mistake or they made a mistake ordering. People do get buyer's remorse. You have to understand the culture nowadays. People are more used to Amazon and Amazon-like websites where you get instant gratification within a day or a couple days. You get your item. You can just immediately request a refund, no questions asked for any reason. You got something and it looks like it's green when it's outside, but when it's inside it looks like it's blue, so I'm going to get a refund, and you just request a refund, and they've made it to where you don't even have to wait for the seller to receive their item back before you get your refund. As long as Amazon can verify that the item has been shipped back through tracking, in most cases they'll send that refund immediately to your Amazon account balance or back to the credit card that you used when you made the purchase. We're in that kind of age now now where people are used to this quick, convenient, no questions asked kind of service. That mentality, I'm afraid, carries over to eBay. So if we set the right expectation, if you contact me as soon as possible, I will be extremely diligent in resolving your issue and replying as soon as I can and making the problem right, whatever it is. And you show that through your feedback, through consistency, and through upholding your own policies and procedures, as well as the policies of eBay. If a buyer does not have confidence in the eBay platform as a whole, then they're not going to have confidence in buying from you. So it's up to us sellers to make sure that, looking at the big picture, we're upholding the same policies that we expect others to abide by. If sellers consistently followed the same policies and procedures and the same methods, in other words, everyone together was consistent, and a buyer knew that regardless of who they bought from, they were going to receive that same consistent service and have the same expectations, it would make it as a whole a lot easier for sellers on eBay to make sure that they had a better experience when dealing with buyers. You may think you're doing someone a favor when you issue a partial refund because they weren't happy with the item instead of asking them to send it back, or canceling a transaction because you're afraid that it's going to be too risky of a transaction because they have no feedback. You're not really doing yourself a favor because you're alienating a whole subset of customers you could be generating profit from, and you're also putting a bad taste in the customer's mouth because what they're going to think, they're not going to know Crazy Horse 29 sold me this game and I had a bad experience, or Electric Girl 56 sold me this game. They're going to think, I bought it on eBay, I had a bad experience with eBay, so now they have a preconceived notion in their mind of what eBay is like, not that necessarily the seller, because eBay allowed this to happen. I found the seller on eBay, so that's what's going to be stuck in their mind. I don't know if any of you have ever received negative feedback or a negative comment from a customer because they had a bad experience with eBay. It wasn't even your fault. It was something that happened, that the way eBay handled it, maybe they blocked a message that a customer was trying to send you after you shipped an item. They didn't get the notification that it was shipped, or that there would be a delay in shipment because USPS or UPS or whatever the case was, and it had nothing to do with you, but yet the customer took it out on you. It was deflected or misdirected, especially if they're not very experienced. And eBay let me down, so I'm gonna leave my experience. And so I always stress when I'm dealing with buyers, the feedback that you send me, I would appreciate it if you based it on the way I handled the situation, my interaction with you, and how responsive I was to any concerns or questions that you had. Not on the item you received, not on the way eBay platform handled the issue or your experience with eBay was, but your experience with me as a seller, as a company or a small business, and the type of service that I provided to you and the type of communication and timeliness that I provided to you. Just know that buyers with zero feedback are not automatically scammers. They're not evil people. There are some suggestions that I always recommend to buyers that are just starting out, and recommendations that I like to give to buyers who have low or no feedback, as far as, oh, well, a seller's not going to want to do business with me because I have no feedback and they think I'm a scammer. When I started off as a buyer and I had zero feedback, I used eBay as a platform mainly to buy the household essentials, everyday items that I would always buy anyway, just so I could rack up those positive feedbacks. Order things like shampoo, deodorant, household goods, clothes, shoes, things that are under $50, household utensils, home goods, maybe small home decor items, things under $50 that I was probably going to buy anyway somewhere else, with the intention of going through eBay. And I felt good whenever I would buy something and a seller would leave me positive feedback. I made sure I was quick when it came to paying, when it came to communicating with the seller, letting them know what's going on, if there was going to be any delay whatsoever, being the best eBayer I could possibly be, so that this way I would get that positive feedback. When I received the item, I was quick to leave feedback for the seller. A lot of sellers automate their feedback, especially nowadays. As soon as you leave your feedback, you'll get a positive feedback in return. And if that doesn't happen, a lot of times you can just reach out to the seller. Hey, I got your item, it was great. If you could leave me feedback, I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to build my reputation on eBay, so this way people can see that I'm a good person to do business with. just reach out and be honest. You'll see over time it's not going to take long to accumulate some feedback, so this way you're not just seen as someone who's a scammer or inexperienced, can't be trusted to do business with. That's one thing I would recommend to do to get started. If it's like a $5 to $10 item or a $20, $30 item, a seller is going to be a lot more inclined and feel a lot more comfortable doing business with you if it's over a pair of socks than it is over a $200 rare video game or a $500 vintage piece of jewelry. Think of it from both perspectives, both sides. Yes, there is a certain risk doing business, but also on the buyer side, there are things you can actually do to improve your perception, your visibility, your reputation. The buyer comes out winning, seller comes out ahead. Don't discriminate against someone just because they have low feedback. eBay has tools, policies, procedures, and safeguards in place so that if something does go awry with the transaction or something does happen, 99% of the time there's going to be a solution that's acceptable to the seller and eBay, and you don't have to worry about circumventing eBay policy or giving yourself a bad name just to protect your business. Understand when you're running a business of any kind, not just reselling, just being an entrepreneur and a business owner in general, you always want to practice things ethically, responsibly, a good reputation, and upholding the correct policies and procedures and doing things the right way is going to get you a lot further than being shady or doing things the wrong way and establishing a bad name for yourself. You may get ahead in the short term, but in the long term, that's absolutely not the right way to do business. I hope this information has helped you. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget, like, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.